أشهد أن عليا حجة الله. حي على الصلاة، حي على الصلاة، حي على الفلاح، حي على الفلاح، حي على خير العمل، حي على خير العمل. الله أكبر، الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله، لا إله إلا الله. صلوات.
اللهم صل على محمد. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، الحمد لله خالق الخلق باسط الرزق فالق الإصباح ذي الجلال والإكرام والفضل والإنعام، الذي بعد فلا يرى وقرب فشهد النجوى تبارك وتعالى. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، إلها أحدا فردا صمدا حيا قيوما، لم يتخذ صاحبة ولا ولدا. وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أرسله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله ولو كره المشركون. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد، وبارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد، وترحم على محمد وعلى آل محمد، وتحنن على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت وباركت وترحمت وتحننت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. عباد الله، أوصيكم ونفسي بتقوى الله ونظم أمركم وصلاح ذات البين، فإنها خير من عامة الصلاة والصيام. قال الله تعالى في كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم: ووصينا الإنسان بوالديه إحسانا، حملته أمه كرها ووضعته كرها، وحمله وفصاله 30 شهرا، حتى إذا بلغ أشده وبلغ 40 سنة قال رب أوزعني أن أشكر نعمتك التي أنعمت علي وعلى والدي، وأن أعمل صالحا ترضاه، وأصلح لي في ذريتي إني تبت إليك وإني من المسلمين. Respected brothers and sisters, this coming Sunday will be Mother's Day. And we see that in America it's going to be Mother's Day, but of course in other cultures Mother's Day is celebrated in other days. For example, in some countries, I believe in Iran probably, Mother's Day is on the birth of Fatima al-Zahra alayhi salam. And other countries, other cultures celebrate Mother's Day or Father's Day on different days. And this is a very beautiful tradition to have. In fact, as Muslims, for us, every day should be Mother's Day. Every day you should remember your mother and celebrate your mother. And one of the most important teachings in the religion of Islam is to respect and love and show ihsan to your parents, especially your mother. There's a specific insistence on the mother. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَن لَا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. And your Lord has decreed that you do not worship anyone other than Allah, and second, that you have to show ihsan. You have to show love. You have to show compassion. You have to show obedience to your parents. وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. You see, this order, it comes immediately after not obeying anyone other than God. So one of the most important, the first message of all of the prophets is Tawheed, no shirk. And the second message is ihsan to the parents. You have to respect your parents. What does ihsan mean? Ihsan means that you have to always be the one who serves the parents. You have to always be the one who's doing good towards the parents. And we are not ordered to deal with everyone with ihsan. For example, with your brother, with your neighbor, with your cousin, with your family member, you deal with them with ma'roof, what's right. You deal with them with justice. For example, if someone abused you, if someone spoke ill to you, you have the right to get your haqq. You have the right to reciprocate, even though you're not supposed to. But can you reciprocate with your parents the same way you reciprocate with others? No. With your parents, you have to deal with them with ihsan. Meaning that even if they did injustice to you, and this happens a lot. Many times, some of the parents, they do wrong, they do injustice to their kids. Even if they did injustice to you, do you have the right to do the same to them? You cannot do that. And this is what ihsan is. وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. And you have to treat them with ihsan. Now, within the parents, there is also respect. You have to respect your father and your mother. But the mother is prioritized. Why? Because your mother was the one that loved you the most. Your mother is the one that cared for you the most. Even before she even knew you, even before she even saw you, even before she carried you, she dealt with you and she went through pain because of you. And she had sleepless nights because of you. And she sacrificed her life, her body, everything that she has for your comfort. And this is why your mother, you have to treat her in the best way possible. A man comes to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi and he tells him, who should I, man abir ya Rasulullah? Who should I show birr al-walidain to? Rasulullah tells him, ummak, your mother. And then he tells him, thumma man. He says, your mother. He says, then who? He says, your mother. And then the fourth time he says, your father. Now this doesn't mean that you have to disrespect your father. No. It just means that you have to show extra care and compassion and love to the mother. Your mother is your first caretaker, the first person who loved you, the first person who's been there for you. And she carried you when you were heavy in her womb. She carried you in her arms. She fed you from her body. She gave you all of her love. And this is why in the religion of Islam, we are ordered to show respect to the parent, but specifically the mother. وَوَصَّيْنَا الْإِنسَانَ بِوَالِدَيْهِ إِحْسَانًا. Allah says, and we have instructed the insan to show ihsan to their parents. And then the example is, حَمَلَتْهُ أُمُّهُ كُرْهًا وَوَضَعَتْهُ كُرْهًا. Your mother carried you in difficulty. And when she gave birth to you, she gave birth to you in difficulty. So this is why you have to show love and compassion. One day, a man comes to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi and he tells him, Ya Rasulullah, I want to go to jihad. I want to join the Muslims in jihad, in defending Islam and the Muslim community. Rasulullah tells him, he tells Rasulullah, he tells him, but I am the only son of my parents. My parents don't have any other son. And he tells him, when I left my parents to say goodbye to them, my parents were crying. My mother was crying when I left the house because I'm going to jihad. She was crying when she was saying goodbye to me. Rasulullah tells him, leave the jihad and go back and serve your mother. Imagine how much reward you have to be a shaheed, to do jihad in the way of Allah. Rasulullah tells him, leave the jihad and go back and make your mother smile and laugh the same way you made her cry when you left her. And then he tells him, this is a greater act of jihad. He says, وَالَّذِي نَفْسِي بِيَدِهِ لَأُنْسُهُمَا بِكَ لَيْلَةً يَوْمًا وَلَيْلَةً خَيْرٌ مِّن جِهَادِ سَنَةٍ. He says, by the one, Rasulullah, he does a qasam. He says, by the one whom my life is in his hands, meaning by God, if your parents are pleased with you for one day and night, layla, yawman wa layla, that is more rewarding for you than jihad for 1 full year. 1 full year of fighting in the way of Allah and the struggles of jihad, you keep your parents pleased with you for 1 day, that is much greater. My dear brothers and sisters, this is the akhlaq of Islam. This is what Islam teaches us. 2 very important relationships. One is relationship with God. You have to have a healthy relationship with God. And second, with people around you. And beginning with your parents. Today, unfortunately, we see many, they disrespect their parents. Many, they treat their parents not in the right way, not in the way that they're supposed to. They leave their parents and they're not there for them to serve them. They show disrespect in the way that they speak to them. And this is haram. This is something that will bring the ghadab, the wrath of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon you. You have to take care of your family. And if someone has shortcomings with their family, then this person will see the punishment in this dunya and in the afterlife. Someone who does not have a healthy relationship with their parents, especially with your mother, this person will not see happiness, will not see tawfiq in this dunya. One day, we've mentioned the story before. One day, a man, they come and they tell Rasulullah, Ya Rasulullah, there is a young man from the Muslims, he's dying, he's suffering, and he is in between life and in between death. So come, O Rasulullah, come and speak to this person. Come and try to get this person to say the shahada. So Rasulullah comes and he speaks to the person, the young man. He's unable to speak. He's unable to answer. Sometimes some people, when they get close to death, that's it. They cannot speak. Their tongue is tied. So Rasulullah, he tries to find the problem. What is the source of the problem? He says, does this man have a mother? They tell him yes. His mother is here. He asks her, he tells her, are you pleased with him? She pauses for a moment and then she says, no, I'm not pleased with him. Because he disrespects me. He talks back to me. He got married and he forgot all about me. And sometimes because of his wife, he puts me down. And he's been treating me like this for years now. Rasulullah tells her, that is the reason why he can't speak. You have to be pleased with him so that he will be able to say the shahada. So the lady, she was very hurt. She says, no, Ya Rasulullah, I can't forgive him. Rasulullah tells her, if you do not forgive him, he will not be able to speak. She says, I can't forgive him. Then Rasulullah, he tells the Muslims, go and bring some wood. Go and bring some wood and light it on fire. They light it on fire. Then Rasulullah, he tells them, go and throw him in the fire. As soon as he said that, the mother, she said, Ya Rasulullah, what are you doing? You want to burn my son? He tells her, you, by not being pleased with him, he's going to go to a much more severe fire than the fire of this dunya. So she began to cry and she said, I will forgive him. I will forgive him, Ya Rasulullah. Of course, Rasulullah did not want to throw him in the fire. Rasulullah wanted to show her and show everyone that if your mother is angry with you, if your mother is upset with you, that is like being thrown in the fire. And she agreed. So then Rasulullah, he came to him and he tells him, repeat after me. Ya man yaqbalu al-yasir وَيَعْفُوا عَنِ الْكَثِيرِ اقْبَلْ مِنِّ الْيَسِيرِ وَاعْفُ عَنِّ الْكَثِيرِ. Oh, he who accepts the bare minimum, the qaleel, and he forgives the many faults that we have, forgive me for the faults and accept the little that I have offered. He began to say that, and then he was able to say his shahada. He was able to say his shahada, and then he passed away. So one of the things of uquq al-walidain, one of the things of angering your mother, it will take away the ability to say the shahada in the moment of death. This is why you have to be very careful and try to please your mother. And this is a hadith from the Prophet. Heaven is beneath the feet of your mother. This is a real hadith. This is a real hadith, and it has consequences in this dunya and in the akhirah. If you want tawfiq, you want blessings in this dunya, then you have to be a person who shows ihsan and love and obedience to your parents and specifically to your mother. And if you want the akhirah, if you want the afterlife, then you have to be a person who shows love and respect to your mother. One day a man, he comes to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa and he tells him, Ya Rasulullah, I carried my mother on my back. I carried her on my back and I took her to perform the Hajj. And the Hajj is very exhausting. If any of you have gone to Hajj, carrying yourself is an exhaustion in itself. Imagine carrying someone else on your back. That time they didn't have wheelchairs. He carries his mother on his back and he takes her to do the tawaf and the sa'i and Muzdalifah and Mina and Arafat and all of the rituals. He does them and then he comes back to Rasulullah. He tells him, Ya Rasulullah, have I paid back my mother for what she did? Rasulullah tells him, no, you will never be able to do so. You will never be able to go through the pain that your mother went through in childbirth, in raising you, the first months of your life, all of that. You will never be able to do that. Today there are some people, their parents become older. And I've seen this. They serve their parents. The parents become either paralyzed or they become sick. And sometimes the kids, they're feeding their parents, they're changing them. And this goes on for years. But this is still not equivalent to the love that the mother shows to the child when you were first born. A man comes to the Imam and he tells him, I've been taking care of my parents, my mother, for years now. I've been feeding them, I've been washing them, I've been giving them everything that they need. Have I paid them back? The Imam says, no. He says, because when your mother was caring for you when you were a baby, she had hoped to see you grow older. She had hoped to see you become successful and become independent and become wealthy and become healthy and have dunya and have everything. But when you are taking care of your mother, you're counting the days and you're saying, this is a test from Allah, it's going to finish soon. They're going to leave soon. So this is the difference. This is why, my dear brothers and sisters, the khair of this dunya and the akhirah and the tawfiq in this dunya and the akhirah is by loving and caring for your parents. One day, Prophet Musa alayhi salam, he asked Allah, he tells him, Ilahi, I want to see my neighbor in paradise. Who's my neighbor in paradise? Who's going to be the neighbor of Prophet Musa alayhi salam? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells him, you go to this town, and this is the address, and this is the location. This person is in the same level as Prophet Musa alayhi salam. Prophet Musa, who's done so much. He's guided Bani Israel, and he's Kalimullah, so many miracles, so much ibadah, so much struggles in the way of Allah. This person is your neighbor. Prophet Musa, he goes and he sees a normal man, a butcher. And that man did not know that this is Musa. So Prophet Musa wanted to see, what is this person doing that makes this person qualified to be in the same level as Prophet Musa alayhi salam in paradise? He says, can I come and stay with you for the night? The man says, yes, come and stay. Musa stays with him. He wants to see, is this person giving charity? Is this person doing jihad? Is this person praying the whole night? What is this person doing? He saw that this person has a very normal life. He's sleeping and he is living a very normal life. Nothing very unique in particular with this person's life. But then in the morning, he saw that this man, he goes to a room, and after about 20 minutes, 30 minutes, after a while, he leaves the room and he goes to work. Prophet Musa tells him, wait a moment. Who's in that room? What were you doing in that room? He tells him, my mother is in that room. And my mother is paralyzed. So I go every day, I feed my mother. I wash her feet. I change her clothes. I take care of her. I give her all that she needs. And then I leave. And then he tells him, when you feed your mother, what does she say? Does she pray for you? He says, yes. My mother prays for me. All day, the whole time I am taking care of her, she prays for me. He says, every bite, I put the food with every bite I put in her mouth. She says, oh Allah, be pleased with my son. Oh Allah, make my son the neighbor of Prophet Musa. Prophet Musa tells him, the dua of your mother has been accepted, and I am Musa, and Allah told me that you will be my neighbor in paradise. This is the beauty of Islam. So in Islam, every day is Mother's Day. Every day, make your mother happy with you. Every day, try to make your mother pleased with you. There was a companion of Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq alayhi salam by the name of Zakaria ibn Ibrahim. Zakaria ibn Ibrahim, he was a Christian. And he joined the religion of Islam under the guidance of Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq alayhi salam. When he joined the religion of Islam, he tells the Imam, he tells him, my mother is still a Christian. So what am I supposed to do? And this happens a lot. We see sometimes reverts, they come and they say, my parents are still Christian. Do I have to disrespect them now that I joined the religion of Islam? The answer is never. There's no scenario in Islam where you disrespect your parents. Even, Allah says in the Quran, even if they are telling you to disobey God, then you just la tuti'huma. You don't obey them in that. However, you have to treat them with ihsan. You have to treat them with love and compassion. Even if they're telling you to do wrong, just don't obey that. Just don't listen to them when they're telling you to do the wrong. He says, Imam Sadiq, he asks the Imam, he tells the Imam, can I eat from the food that my mother is cooking? The mother of Zakaria ibn Ibrahim was living in Kufa. And Kufa is a predominantly Muslim community at that time. So the Imam, he asks him, he tells him, does your mother eat pork? Does she eat pig? He says, no, she doesn't. Then the Imam tells him, then eat from the food. Eat with her. So he goes back to Kufa and he says, I begin to follow the instructions of Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq to take care of my mother, to show her love. He says, I began to wash her feet. I began to show her extra love and compassion. And she tells me, oh my dear son, I see that you're treating me differently. What has happened? He tells her, I joined the religion of Islam. And our religion, Islam, teaches us to take care of our parents. Teaches us, there's a specific insistence on showing love to the father and the mother. And this is what I'm doing. And he tells her, I met a man, my teacher, and this is what he told me. These are the instructions of this man who I spoke with. She tells him, who is this man? Is he a prophet? Because these are the teachings of the prophets. He tells her, no, he's not a prophet, but he's from the grandchildren of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayh. He's from the grandchildren of a prophet. So he says, my mother was very pleased. He says, until she fell ill, and one day at night she called me and she tells me, oh my dear son, come to me and tell me the shahada. Tell me the shahada. I want to join this religion, this beautiful religion. I want to join it as well. So he goes and he tells his mother the shahada. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. And he says she repeats it after me. And then he says, she slept for a while, she woke up and she tells me, come and read it again for me. This is in Al-Kafi. He comes and he says, I read the shahada for her a second time and she passed away. She passed away as a Muslimah, as a believer, because of the actions of the son. Because of the son, how he followed the instructions of Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq alayhi salam. My dear brothers and sisters, these are the teachings of Islam. And in Islam, every day should be Mother's Day. In Islam, every day we have to show that love and that compassion to our parents, and specifically and especially to the mothers. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us from those who do not have shortcomings towards our parents. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Qul huwa Allahu ahad, Allahu samad. لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الحمد لله الذي يجيبني حين أناديه ويستر علي كل عورة وأنا أعصيه ويعظم النعمة علي فلا أجازيه. نحمده ونسبحه ونقدسه على آلائه ونعمائه. من يهدي الله فهو المهتدي ومن يضلل فلا هادي له من بعده. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد وبارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد وترحم على محمد وعلى آل محمد وتحنن على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت وباركت وترحمت وتحننت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم وصل على علي أمير المؤمنين وقائد الغر المحجلين إلى جنات النعيم. وصل اللهم على الصديقة الطاهرة فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين. وصل اللهم على سبطي الرحمة وإمامي الهدى الحسن والحسين سيدي شباب أهل الجنة. وصل اللهم على أئمة المسلمين وحماة الدين علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي والحجة الخلف الهادي المهدي. عجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف وجعلنا من أنصاره وأعوانه والمستشهدين بين يديه. My dear brothers and sisters, on the 25th of Shawwal, which will be either Monday or Tuesday of this coming week, will be the anniversary of the martyrdom of the 6th Imam of Ahl al-Bayt, Imam Ja'far ibn Muhammad as-Sadiq alayhi salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala. Imam as-Sadiq alayhi salam, he is the father of the school of the Ahl al-Bayt alayhim salam. And this is why the fiqh of the followers of the Ahl al-Bayt, 90% or more is taken from the words and the knowledge of Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq alayhi salam. However, Imam as-Sadiq is not only the Imam of the Shia, he's not only the Imam of the followers of the Ahl al-Bayt. Imam as-Sadiq alayhi salam, he was the teacher of the Imams of the other madhahib of the Muslims. One of the most prominent students of Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq alayhi salam was Abu Hanifa. Abu Hanifa, he's the leader of the Hanafi school of thought. He was a student of Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq alayhi salam. And he says, لَوْلَا السَّنَتَانِ لَهَلَكَ النُّعْمَانِ. If it were not for the 2 years that I was privileged to study under Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq alayhi salam, I would have perished, I would have suffered. He was a student of Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq. Al-Imam Anas ibn Malik was a student of Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq alayhi salam. And he says, مَا رَأَتْ عَيْنٌ وَمَا سَمِعَتْ أُذُنٌ أَفْضَلْ وَأَفْقَهْ min Ja'far as-Sadiq alayhi salam. He says, no eye has seen and no ear has heard of anyone during their time more knowledgeable, more God conscious than Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq alayhi salam. So you see, the impact of Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq was upon all of the Muslims, and today all Muslims are indebted to the teachings of Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq alayhi salam. And of course, Imam as-Sadiq, his contributions were not only Islamic contributions. Today, a lot of people, they have the idea that when I go to a masjid, when I see a sayyid, a sheikh, an imam speaking, I have to only learn Islam from this person. Imam Sadiq and Imam al-Baqir, his father, they teach us that Islam and the real scholars of Islam, they teach everything. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam and Imam al-Baqir, they had a student by the name of Jabir ibn Hayyan. Jabir ibn Hayyan is the father of modern day chemistry. Today, non-Muslims, you ask them who's the father of chemistry, they tell them Jabir ibn Hayyan. Jabir ibn Hayyan was the father of modern day chemistry. He was a student of Imam al-Baqir and Imam al-Sadiq. And he writes, he has a book. He writes in his treatise, he begins writing in his book on chemistry, he says, لَقَدْ سَمِعْتُ مِنْ سَيِّدِي وَمَوْلَاي جَعْفَرَ بن Muhammad al-Sadiq. I heard from my master Ja'far al-Sadiq, and then he begins talking about chemistry. And this shows you the knowledge of Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq alayhi salam, the knowledge of Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam. Of course, we believe all of the Imams are knowledgeable. But Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam, the reason why he was able to have such a great influence was because of the freedom that was given to him to express himself and educate others. Because Imam al-Sadiq, he lived between two eras. The fall of the Umayyad dynasty and the rise of the Abbasi dynasty. And during that time, the Imam alayhi salam, he had the freedom to express himself. Whereas others, they did not have the freedom. For example, Imam Zayn al-Abidin, Ali ibn al-Hussein, did not have the freedom to express himself. This is why he would express himself through dua. That was the way that he would be able to educate others. But Imam al-Baqir and Imam al-Sadiq, they would be able to teach many students. One of the narrators, he says, I went into Kufa, into Masjid al-Kufa, and I saw 4,000 students. They're sitting in halaqat, they're sitting in circles, and I passed by each one and I heard them saying, سَمِعْتُ مِنْ سَيِّدِي وَمَوْلَاي جَعْفَرَ بن Muhammad. I heard from my master Ja'far bin Muhammad, and they say the hadith. And Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam, he was truly a Sadiq. What does Sadiq mean? It means the truthful. And this was a title given to him by Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. Rasulullah, he says, my son Hussein, he's going to have a son who is Ali ibn al-Hussein, Zayn al-Abidin, who's going to have a son Muhammad, who's going to be al-Baqir, يَبْقُرُ الْعِلْمَ بَقْرًا, who's going to be spreading the knowledge. And then he goes to Imam al-Sadiq and he says, and his son will be a Sadiq, the truthful one. The truthful one. Now, my dear brothers and sisters, the 25th of Shawwal is the martyrdom anniversary of Imam Sadiq. I want to, for the barakah and for the blessings, to mention one hadith from Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq alayhi salam. قِيلَ لَهُ عَلَى مَاذَا بَنَيْتَ أَمْرَكَ. They ask him, on what have you lived your life on? On what have you built your foundations? What is the drive behind the decisions that you make in life? So he says, على أربعة أشياء. He says there are 4 important points, that these important points, they're what drive me to make all decisions in life. What are they? He says, علمت أن عملي لا يعمله غيري فاجتهدت. He says, I came to the realization that my work will not be done by anyone other than me. So I did my best. Meaning, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, فَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَهُ وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ شَرًّا يَرَهُ. You do an atom's weight of good, you will see it. You do bad, you will see it. Can someone else take me to paradise? No. No matter who I am, even if I'm a Sayyid, even if I am from the descendants of Rasulullah, even if I'm a king, even if I'm wealthy, even if I have the biggest house, I'm a billionaire, whatever, none of that will help me on the day of judgment. يَوْمَ لَا يَنْفَعُ مَالٌ وَلَا بَنُونَ إِلَّا مَنْ أَتَى اللَّهَ بِقَلْبٍ سَلِيمٍ. Meaning, I'm not going to go to paradise because of the work of other people. Allah will judge me for my work. What did I put in? So Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam, he says, عَلِمْتُ أَنَّ عَمَلِي لَا يَعْمَلُهُ غَيْرِي فَاجْتَهَدْتُ. I realized that no one is going to take me to paradise. I have to take myself. I have to put in the work. So I did the best. I did the best. This means when you pray, pray your best prayer. When you give sadaqah, give it with sincerity. When you do anything good, do the best, because that's what you're offering for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then he says, وَعَلِمْتُ أَنَّ اللَّهَ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ مُطَّلِعٌ عَلَيَّ فَاسْتَحْيَيْتُ. He says, second, I realized and I came to the knowledge that Allah sees everything that I do. So I feel shame to do wrong. I feel embarrassed to do anything haram. I feel the guilt if I do anything that will upset God. Today, a lot of us, we would not do certain things in front of other people. No matter how close they are to us, we would not do things in front of them because we get embarrassed. We feel the guilt, we feel the shame, but many of us, we have no shame in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who's seeing everything. Allah who's watching everything. Is there a moment, is there a time that God does not see us? Of course not. Allah is always watching us. So he says, عَلِمْتُ أَنَّ اللَّهَ مُطَّلِعٌ عَلَيَّ فَاسْتَحْيَيْتُ. I realize that God is watching everything. So I feel the guilt and the shame in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then he says, وَعَلِمْتُ أَنَّ رِزْقِي لَا يَأْكُلُهُ غَيْرِي فَاطْمَأْنَنْتُ. I came to the realization that my rizq, my sustenance, will not be taken by anyone other than me. So I have itminan, I became comfortable. I'm at peace. A lot of times, people, they're competing for this dunya. If I don't get this, someone else is going to get it. Well, guess what? If that has been written for you, even if the whole world tries to get it, they won't be able to. And if that has not been written to you, even if you put in all of your effort to try to get it, you would not be able to get it. Because Allah has written for every person their rizq and their sustenance. Allah knows exactly how much you're going to make today, how much you're going to make tomorrow, how much you're going to make in a lifetime. Which piece of bread, which piece of rice is going to go in your mouth and eat it, Allah knows about that. So, when God knows all of this, then have itminan. Surrender to Allah. Now, of course, this doesn't mean I shouldn't work. Let me just sit and say, okay, my rizq is promised by God. No, Allah wants you to have the effort. Allah wants you to work. But if you were going for something and you didn't get it, it's okay. It's not a big deal. God has promised you your rizq. As long as you're alive, as long as you're breathing, your sustenance is going to come to you. The moment you leave this life, that is the moment your sustenance is going to stop. Right? So, he says, عَلِمْتُ أَنَّ رِزْقِي لَا يَأْكُلُهُ غَيْرِي فَاطْمَأْنَنْتُ. And the fourth, وَعَلِمْتُ أَنَّ آخِرَ أَمْرِي الْمَوْتِ فَاسْتَعْدَدْتُ. He says, then I came to the conclusion that the last thing in my life is what? Death. The last thing is a grave. Going to a grave in the house. Let me build the mansions. Let me have the biggest houses in this dunya. At the end, what? Carried to a small grave in the ground. That's it. This is the end of every person, and there's no guarantee. Some of us, we have that. We think that when I get old, that's when death will come to me. No. I was just at a funeral just an hour ago. A young man, 32 years old. 32 years old, he's being buried now as we speak. There's no guarantee. There's no guarantee, that's it. So he says, وَعَلِمْتُ أَنَّ آخِرَ أَمْرِي الْمَوْتِ فَاسْتَعْدَدْتُ. I realize that the last thing that will be written in my chapter, the chapter of my life, is this person died on this day. This person died on this day. That's it. So he says, then I began to prepare myself for that moment, the moment of meeting Allah. My dear brothers and sisters, this 4 matters, if we live by them, then our lives will be very different. And this is just one drop in the ocean of knowledge of Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq alayhi salam. Inshallah, we will be holding the majlis for Imam al-Sadiq this coming Thursday. And there's going to be a youth majlis where the youth are requested and asked to write poems, to give eulogies, whatever it is. It's going to be on Saturday, inshallah, next Saturday. So we ask you all to join. My dear brothers and sisters, one last point. Right now, we see the aggression going on against Gaza and against the Palestinians. And this is a great act of aggression that's going on. And the American foreign policy and the Congress members and the senators and the president, they are allowing this to happen as if it's no big deal. Every day Biden is sending, every few weeks Biden is sending billions and millions of dollars to Ukraine. But you see, Palestinians for these decades, their children, kids, whole families are being wiped out. Israel, they throw their rockets, their missiles, and a whole building is brought down with families, with children, with young boys and girls and mothers and innocent people. They're all being wiped out, and not a single word of condemnation. This is an act of injustice. This is an act of aggression. And we need to speak out against it. And our elected representatives need to speak out against it. And we need to reach out to them to speak out against this. This injustice cannot last. Of course, there's not much in our hands other than the dua. And the dua is very powerful, my dear brothers and sisters. We pray for all of the mu'mineen. We pray for the believers wherever they may be. نسألك اللهم وندعوك باسمك العظيم الأعظم الأعز الأجل الأكرم يا الله يا الله يا رحمن يا رحيم يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين